Atonement, at one-ment, atonement. When I hear that familiar melody of Avinu Malkeinu, that familiar tone, it does give me goosebumps. And when I hear you joining spontaneously as Amy sings, I'm reminded of the privilege of community. There are those who are not in synagogue today who are Jewish. And it leaves me a certain kind of sadness, only because I find it so deeply satisfying, a gift on the most soulful level to be with you today on this Yom Kippur. And yet, this is a moment to pause. This entire day is a moment to pause, to ask questions. And so, my focus for this sharing is this present moment. The canvas is the day of Yom Kippur. Why are we here? What do we gain from being here? Each of us, in our very presence, is acting counterculturally. Most people out there in the larger world don't know it's Yom Kippur today. They're going about their normal lives. By being here, we are taking a decided break from that normal rhythm. Why are we here? Out there, by being here, we're not working, which means for many of us, a choice to have less money. By being here today, it means to have put our cell phones away. By being here today, it means choosing, instead of playing, being still. It means today to be here, not to eat or to drink. Talk about countercultural. That even goes against the grain of our most basic needs. Why? Or to frame it differently, what are we gaining in being here? And not just on this, the day of Yom Kippur, but in a larger trajectory. What do we gain from rituals that we choose to make part of habit, choose to make an integral part of our lives? But to answer that larger question of why pause for rituals, let us again return to this moment of Yom Kippur. We are not here on a day of our choosing. It is not a day that is necessarily convenient. It is the 10th of Tishrei. It is Yom Kippur. Why are we here? We read in the Torah that it's a mitzvah, that it's a command. And indeed, at the core of why we are here is some sense that it's the right thing to do. It's a duty. I am a Jew. I'm supposed to be in synagogue on Yom Kippur. Duty is really, really important. We are defined by our commitments in life. At our core, yes, it's good to play. Yes, it's good to relax. But ultimately, to define who we are is what we do that is inconvenient. On the extreme level, it's what we're prepared to sacrifice our lives for. On a more primal level, we are here today sacrificing the paycheck of the day because we have a duty as Jews. To be a Jew is what you feel in your heart, yes, but that's not all. To be a Jew is what you do, what we do, what sacrifices we make as an expression of duty. How important that is for us to have learned from our parents, that you do things because they are the right thing to do, regardless of whether it is convenient. You don't always get to choose when and how you are present for other people, for greater causes. You do not always get to choose as a Jew when you come to synagogue, when it fits into your schedule. We are here to reconnect and to reaffirm that we are Jews. What a gift for me, for each of us, to feel part of something larger than our own lives. That's an enormous gift, to be grounded in generations before, in words that echo across time, calling on us to be more than just ourselves. That we hear when we come to synagogue. We reconnect, we recommit, we also restrain. Yom Kippur, a day in which we choose to do what is symbolic and wild. We choose not to eat, to drink, to engage in physical pleasures. It is a day of restraint. It is in restraint that we become our most full selves. It's our ability to say no to temptation that defines character. It's our ability to say no to food and water that says we control our appetites, that we are more than physicality. At the end of Yom Kippur, there's a natural uplift. It comes from endorphins in part, those chemicals that are the body's response to stress, that comes from not eating or drinking. But it's more. It's the sense of achievement, the sense that I have the willpower and just exhibited it in order not to eat or drink for 25 hours. Because in tasting will, we gain hope and confidence that our words and our pledges that I can be a better person, that I can pause before I speak, is given reality by the willfulness to fast. At the end of the day, we believe we can be better because we can choose. Yom Kippur and the fasting is ritual, a pause to remind us of our capacity to be human at our best, engaged in self-restraint. though the fast, the anitem et nafshotechem, is not just about flagellation. Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, formerly of New York and now of Efrat, writes, Yom Kippur is not a fast of sadness. Rather, it is when we discover our great spiritual capacity to be like the angels who never need food or drink, soaring close to God and transcending the physical. It is then that we understand the meaning of true rejoicing, spending 25 hours in fellowship with the divine without need of physical comforts. This experience opens the window to the spiritual rejoicing that gives us such great comfort and well-being. It is a day to recommit, reconnect, restrain, reflect, and repair. It is valuable to say on one level, I'm okay, you're okay. It's valuable on some level to feel good about oneself. But if we're only protective of ourselves in such a way that we cannot hear criticism, if we are so protective of ourselves that we cannot look at our deeds and say, I could be better, then we do not reach our potential of goodness. The words of our Mahzor are prompts to reflect. They are distilled across generations as prompts for us when we take our fist and gently pound on our heart to say, wake up, heart. These words that we're reading aren't just words. These are calls to us to pause and to say, have I indeed used my words this year appropriately, or have I been glib? Have I lost my temper rather than pausing? Have I overreacted in fear and distrust and misjudged? We pound our heart to say, pause, open and listen to ourselves. Not because we are bad, but because we could be better. And unless we are seeking to be better, we are not being in the image that God planted within us of the divine that rises to the source of love. And so we pause on this day to know that we can be better and to know that deeply planted within ourselves is that spark of the divine. Not all is utility. It is not just how much money you earn today, which isn't very much, that defines whether this day was a good day. It is the beauty of a palm tree swaying at sunset that takes our breath away, no matter how many times we've seen it, if we pause. That reminds us that life is a blessing, is beautiful. Ultimately, in being together, what we're called to remember is that our value to God and to each other transcends utility. That at our core, we are beloved and worth beyond any price. And so we engage in reflection today on Yom Kippur to grow in our humanity, which is conditioned on our ability to overcome conditioning, to reflect, to rise, and to know that at our core we come to this journey with the gift of the divine. Recommit, reconnect, restrain, reflect, and repair in order to renew. On Yom Kippur, our ancestors taught us that God forgives. At the end of the day, we are to feel uplifted and whole, but more grateful, more aware that life is good and a gift. When we tap into gratitude, it opens our hearts in order to share. For ultimately, our prayers, our fasting, our reflection is a motivator for us as to how to live in a way in which we become God's vehicle for goodness, in which gratitude is our fuel. There's a lot that's always going on in our lives under the surface and all around us. What pops to the surface is where we live. To quote the great Hasidic master, the Baal Shem Tov, "You are where your thoughts are. You are where your thoughts are." Let me share a piece of social psychology from my teacher, Robert Cialdini, in his most recent book, Persuasion. I was Robert Cialdini's research assistant when I was 18 years old. He's gone on to become a star in social psychology. His previous book, Influence, sold over 3 million copies. In his most recent book, Persuasion, he tells about the following challenge in advertising on the internet. How do you get somebody to choose to buy the more expensive product, which is a better product, when they're surfing on the web? So here's the social psychology experiment that deals with this line of the Baal Shem Tov: you are where your thoughts are. 2 business professors, one at ASU, one at Columbia Business School, did the following. They were advertising sofas, and they wanted to see how the background of how the picture of a sofa presentation is made influences a buyer. So they had 2 different backgrounds when you went online to do the search. In one case, the wallpaper behind the sofa were pictures of pennies, lots of pennies. In the other, it was clouds. Sofa, clouds. And they then were able to ask people who went to the website, if you're looking at the sofa with the clouds, to survey what's important to you, rate, in terms of what you're looking for in a couch. Is it how comfortable it is, or how good a deal it is financially? They were able also to track who went to the website to see what else they look for in terms of information, whether it was information on the comfort or on the price points of the couch. And here's what they found: that the background had a significant impact on what people preferred in the purchase of that couch online, whether what they saw when they went to the website had dollar signs, then cost became more a factor. If it was clouds, comfort became a greater factor. They then went to the people and said, this is what we found. We found that you went online and had the clouds and seemed to buy the more expensive sofa. And almost all the people denied that the background had made a difference. because we tend to think we're in control. We are constantly, in any place, influenced by the world around us in subconscious ways in terms of what's important. And what pops to the surface, whether it's comfort or cost, shifts our attention and our focus. My daughter Anna, home from New York, all three in New York. Anna, fortunately, home for the holidays from New York, was in Los Angeles recently. She went with a girlfriend to a bookstore called The Last Bookstore in downtown LA. A friend wanted to show her. It's a friend from college. And there in this bookstore in LA, she saw something she had not seen before. It was labeled decorative books. Books, she took a picture to show me because she found it so remarkable and upsetting. Red books, blue books, green books. You could go into the bookstore and buy decorative books, the color books you need for your bookshelf. And she rightly said to me, Dad, can you imagine if you were the author of a red book and people were buying it because they liked the color and not because they were going to read it? Now that's an extreme, of course. It's an extreme to say we live in a culture that often emphasizes how things look, externals, appearance, rather than content. It doesn't mean for any one of us that we're necessarily so superficial, but it does mean that in a consumer culture, it's objects that get put in front of us repeatedly and are told, this is what's going to make you happy. This is what you need. This is what looks good. Don't bother to open the book. It's red. There's a few red ones, there's some blue ones. In contrast, the machzor that you hold in your hand, if you drop it, you know what is our custom. We pick it up and we kiss it. I'm told from Rabbi Joseph Telushkin that it's a distinctly Jewish custom, kissing books. We kiss the machzor or the chumash or any sacred text because we want to suggest that it's precious to us. Because embedded in that book, when we open it, are words that have an energy, a resonance, that touch us because they are profound words. They are God's name and more, guides to how to be more godly in our lives. On this day, each of us is a sacred text. We are called to read and open up ourselves, to know that at our center we are each holy, that we at our center have content and are not only surface. That regardless of how functioning we are as we get older and perhaps are less productive, that we are still infinitely precious and valuable. Rituals have different roles in different phases of life. When we're young, like in our camp, they are theme songs. And so we chant grace after meals at camp as a fight song. And we hear the community singing Adon Olam often as a ditty. But as we get older and we hear those familiar melodies, if we're privileged to have heard them when we're young, then even more so when we hear them when we're older, they evoke goosebumps, like that Avinu Malkeinu, atonement. And they give us strength. They energize us. They connect us. They remind us that life is connected with others across time. And so I want to focus in on one last focus, and that's aging and rituals. We chanted in the Shema Kolenu, Al tashlichenu le'ed zikna, ki chlod kochenu al ta'azvenu. God, quoting Psalm 71:9, do not cast me off in times of old age. When my strength fails, forsake me not. I have a beloved teacher in Jerusalem, Abe Twersky, Hasidic rabbi of generations, who's also a psychiatrist. He's now 87 and a half. I'm so honored to be able not only to have him as a teacher, but as a friend. Starting 2 years ago, his body began to change, leaving him in deep pain, physical pain, pain that impacts his sleep, lack of sleep that impacts his memory. He is the author of 63 books. 63? 63 books. He dedicated his psychiatric career to working with addictions. He said his addiction was writing, which he did every morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. He's a remarkable man. He dedicated his career as a ultra-Orthodox man in Pittsburgh to alcoholics and drug addicts, seeing in each person, as he would share with me in conversation, the image of God, because it's the only way he could do the work. And now at the age of 87, he's in pain. And he quoted to me this verse, Al tashlichenu le'ed zikna, do not cast me off into old age. And he said to me, the way it's that I can understand it best is a prayer to say, let me age gradually. Let me age in such a way that I'm not thrown, but that I can adjust step by step. And yet, it's not easy for him, and it wasn't easy for me, to recognize that there is a phase of life for many, for most, in which one reaches a point where one's body begins to fail, where one cannot do, where one becomes dependent. Our being here today on Yom Kippur is a preparation for that phase. The kittel is the garment we will be buried in. We don't eat or drink to remember that there is a phase of life where one ceases to eat and drink. We do so because we are asked on Yom Kippur to look at life as a trajectory, as a whole story, so as to remember what is important, if you will, to prepare for each of our phases in life. I met a man in Jerusalem. He's a collector of antiquities. He's also a former professor of economics at Hebrew University. And he said to me, you know how you eat dessert at the end of the meal? You leave that which is sweet for the end? I'm on pension now. Actually, he said I have 3 pensions. And life is dessert. I'm enjoying it. Abraham Joshua Heschel said that we should approach old age like somebody entering their senior year of college with great anticipation of greater freedom. But Rabbi Joshua Heschel also wrote, close to 50 years ago, conditioned to operate as a machine for making and spending money, with all other relationships dependent on its efficiency, the moment the machine is out of order and beyond repair, one begins to feel like a ghost without a sense of reality. And he continued, we know a great deal about what to do with things, even what to do with other people. We hardly know what to do with ourselves. One last rabbi friend to quote, my beloved teacher, Rabbi Jack Reamer. He's the rabbi's sermon giver. He'll turn 90 in March. I just received his third draft of his 90th birthday sermon. He's prepared. And Rabbi Reamer wrote, Rabbi Reamer in Boca, no longer can I assume when I read of growing older that the words are addressed to someone else when the person I see in the mirror each day looks more and more like an elderly person. When I was young, I thought that old people were a class apart. Now I know better. I know that they are us, a little further along the same road that all people travel. And so why are we here? We are here today on this Yom Kippur to pause, to step away from the normal rhythms that are about competing, acquiring, doing, working, and doing so in such a way that we often lose track of what's really important. We are here on this day of Yom Kippur to remember that we're only here for a visit, all of us, and that each day that we live is a gift, is good, is precious. We are here to remember that at our core is the divine expressing love, and that we are a book, and that we are not just surface. We are not just what is written on our DMV cards. We are much, much more a mystery to ourselves and much more holy. And so I close with some things for you to consider. How beyond this day to continue to create pause, to reflect, connect, and celebrate. I invite you each day to set aside some quiet time, however you might choose to use quiet time. The image used is of a glass of water taken from a stream that when it's allowed to sit, the silt goes to the bottom and there's a quality of clarity. Like on this day, precisely because it is quiet time, repetitive time, we can feel still and reflect and know more clearly who we are. A 95-year-old that I heard at a conference shared the second suggestion. 2 parts. He exercises every morning, and then he makes one phone call to somebody to simply say, I was thinking of you. Our lives are lives of relationship. Each of us have people that mean a lot to us that we are often too busy to remember, to put back together, to reconnect. Let us each take more time to reach out and simply to say, I am thinking of you. And for those closest in your life, easier said than done, set aside time one day a week just to be. That's the goal of Shabbat. For couples, there's value in one day a week simply having a date, not to discuss the bills and the work and the problems. One day a week simply to feel the goodness of connection. So those are 3 personal thoughts. And let me just share 3 rituals that all begin with M. Sounds good. The motzi. I don't mean to awaken your stomachs. 10 Hebrew words. Motzi lecha min haaretz. Every time you pause and say the motzi, 3 amazing things occur. 1, you assert willpower. You say, before I put my food to the mouth, I'm going to pause. That's the power of ritual, the ability to pause, to assert will, our humanity. The words are words of gratitude. To pause and say thank you. And in that pause to know we are interconnected. That when we eat, it's because of a whole web of care, of achievement. That we don't eat simply by ourselves. We are reminded of our interconnectivity and gratitude. And in saying those 10 words in Hebrew, we're reminded that we are part of a distinctive family that seeks to live life as an extended family across generations in gratitude. Second, to consider is mezuzah. A mezuzah is a piece of Torah. It's taking a little fragment from the Torah and the Ark, putting it on the door and saying, this house is a house in which the words of Torah are found, in which the command to know that there is one God that we must love is attached to our door. When we pause and touch a mezuzah and kiss it, we're reminded that at that threshold, in that liminal moment, our comings and our goings are a gift of mobility, and coming home is a gift of home. Home marked by Torah. And last, Moda'ani, the 15 words that one is traditionally to say when opening one's eyes in the morning. Moda'ani lefanecha, grateful am I before you. Melechai v'kayam, supreme, living, enduring. Shechazarta bi nishmati, that you've returned my soul within me. B'chemla rabba emunatecha, with much compassion, with your faithfulness and faith in us. Those 3 M's of rituals are now posted on our CBI18.org website, just in case you want to see the words, particularly of the Moda'ani, to make it a habit. Today on Yom Kippur, it is a holy day. Today, we are privileged to gather together in 5779 to say that we as a Jewish people are alive. Who will live and who will thrive? We thrive as a people here in Israel and around the world. That is a miracle. Our presence here links us to a chain across generations, a chain that has grown even stronger with those who have chosen to become adopted members of this extended family, who've joined themselves as links in this chain. On this Yom Kippur, we celebrate the privilege of reconnection, of renewal, of restraint. Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, Avinu Malkeinu. May we on this day engage in atonement, knowing that we could be better. And may it lead with the aid of atonement, with melodies and words, to at one-ment. May we see ourselves linked to you, to the whole of creation, beloved. Amen.